If you've been a wrestling fan for more than a little while, you've seen it. Expectations for a new talent get built up to the heavens with vignettes and video packages. Then they debut, and it's a huge disappointment. These are some of the biggest examples of that all-too-common phenomenon. WCW fans heard the words "Blood Runs Cold" for weeks before being introduced to Glacier, an unabashed rip-off of Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Diamond Dallas Page had introduced the man who portrayed Glacier, Ray Lloyd, to then WCW president Eric Bischoff. Lloyd had been wrestling for years, including for WCW before that, but wanted to incorporate martial arts into his style. Bischoff was also a martial arts enthusiast, so he signed Lloyd. Glacier's debut was delayed in favor of the shocking reveal of Hulk Hogan as the Third Man in the New World Order. By the time Glacier debuted with his laser light show entrance in September 1996, his more colorful character didn't match the vibe of the time anymore. Fans were also much more invested in the more grounded NWO. Glacier floundered on the mid-card for a while, but remained undefeated. He wasn't handed his first loss until September 1997. Following a knee injury that took him out of the spotlight even further, Glacier was booked to lose even lower-card opponents in early 1999. Lloyd would re-debut as Coach Buzz Stern in August that year. That said, Glacier has returned for some indie matches in the years since.
If they want to poke fun about it a little bit, that's fine. There's a lot of other gimmicks they poke fun at too.
WWE started its Next in Line, or NIL, program in 2021, with the goal of bringing accomplished college athletes into pro wrestling. The program's first signee was a big one, Gable Steveson, an Olympic gold medalist in freestyle wrestling who was still a student at the University of Minnesota. Even before he was signed, WWE was hyping up Stevenson, featuring him in a segment at SummerSlam 2021. Stevenson was drafted to Raw that October, but never debuted on the show. He did appear briefly at WrestleMania 38 in a segment with Chad Gable, but it wasn't a match. Reports began to emerge that Steveson wasn't progressing at the pace WWE hoped or training at its performance center, and a Wrestling Observer newsletter report said his performance was poor at the time. And then there was all the bad publicity. Steveson had been arrested on accusations of sexual assault in 2019, but never formally charged. Steveson finally did make his in-ring debut at NXT's Great American Bash in 2023 against Baron Corbin. The crowd cheered Corbin, a heel. The match ended in a double countout, and Steveson never wrestled on WWE TV again, though he did have a few more dark matches. He was released in May 2024. It was no secret that WWE brought former college soccer player and fitness model Eva Marie into the company in 2013 to star in their E! Network reality show Total Divas, and it made proving herself as an in-ring performer that much harder. Eva Marie briefly trained with Brian Kendrick ahead of her in-ring debut, ruffling the feathers of some of her Total Divas castmates who weren't awarded the luxury of one-on-one coaching. Even with that personal touch, fans didn't buy her ring work and booed her. In 2015, she went to NXT for a number of months to work on her game, but fans weren't any more charitable to her when she came back to the main roster. She was released from WWE in August 2017, but returned in June 2021 after weeks of promo videos. Once again, fans found her ring work lacking, and Eva Marie failed to get over. WWE even attempted to turn her gimmick into a character who avoided in-ring action at all costs. She let Piper Niven, then known as Doudrop, do the work for her until the duo broke up and feuded. Marie left the company for the second time that November. She has expressed a continued love for WWE though, even hinting at a return.
I know you guys want a yes or no answer. And the truth is, it's maybe. We have an ongoing relationship.
Mystico was such a popular master wrestler persona in Mexico in the 2000s that there were two of them, so it was a huge deal when WWE signed the original Mystico from CMLL in 2011, renaming him Sin Cara, which translates to faceless. WWE announced it with a press conference in Mexico City, hoping he would be their next big Latino star. But things immediately went wrong upon Sin Cara's debut. He had skipped developmental and went straight to the main roster, which meant he wasn't trained in WWE style. He wrestled in a mask that was really hard to see out of. He knew little English, meaning communication in the ring was limited. All those elements combined led to multiple noticeable botches. Seemingly to cover for that, WWE altered the lighting in the arena during his matches to a sort of dim mood lighting. But that only made things worse. The Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer seemed to confirm that Sin Cara had a big ego backstage, which got him heat throughout most of his run. When Sin Cara got hit with a 30-day suspension for a wellness violation, WWE brought in the other Mystico, the one who had worked in AAA, as a replacement. When the original came back, they briefly feuded. After a pretty disastrous run, WWE finally released the first Sin Cara in 2014. He's now wrestling in Mexico as Mystico again, and as big a star there as ever. The second Sin Cara, who had been wrestling unmasked as Hunico, put the mask back on until leaving WWE in 2019, when the character was retired. Tenille Dashwood started in Florida Championship Wrestling in 2011 and stayed on when it became NXT the following year. Under the ring name Emma, she won over fans with her bubbly personality and quirky dancing gimmick. Emma faced off against Paige for the inaugural NXT Women's Championship, and even though she lost, the Orlando crowds loved her. She moved up to the main roster in 2014, and in front of those larger crowds, the humor of her dancing didn't hit for whatever reason. She was only on Raw for a year before she was sent back to NXT, where she turned heel. Her final feud on the brand against Asuka was so good she was called up to the main roster once again in 2016. A back injury that may put her on the shelf for nearly a year and a half. In late 2016, WWE began to hype her up as a more glamorous character, Emmalina. Videos of Emma in bikinis on the beach played week after week. The teases went on for so long it became a joke among fans. Emmalina finally debuted in February 2017, and it was Emma announcing she wasn't going to be this new character before walking off stage. She stuck around as Emma for a few more months before being released that November. She's mostly wrestled on the indie circuit and in TNA since, though she did make a brief WWE return in 2022 and 2023.
I do think I had a lot more to contribute, and I had very high hopes when I returned, and it just didn't turn out the way that I would have liked.
After initially making a name for himself in strongman competitions, Nathan Jones was brought into WWE in early 2003 to be a protege of The Undertaker. Things fell apart almost instantly. Jones joined forces with The Undertaker to help him train for a match against A-Train and Big Show at WrestleMania 19. That showdown was initially meant to be a tag match, but it was reworked into a handicap contest because Jones just wasn't ready to compete on that level. He was sent to Ohio Valley Wrestling for additional training. When Jones came back later that year, he was a heel who went by the nickname of the Colossus of Boggo Road. He got added to the Brock Lesnar's Survivor Series team and was eliminated by Kurt Angle. After working with Lesnar and Paul Heyman for a few more weeks, Jones quit WWE because of the heavy travel schedule. Jones then started pursuing acting, which has gone much better for him. He's one of the villains in both Mad Max Fury Road and its prequel, Furiosa. He also appears in 2021's Mortal Kombat. If you need proof that being big enough isn't enough to make you a pro wrestling star, look no further than Giant Gonzalez. The 7'7" Argentinian had a brief NBA career before making his way to WCW. He trained for over a year before debuting as Gigante in 1990. At one point, probably the highest point of his career, he feuded with Ric Flair over the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. He signed with the then WWF in 1993. They renamed him Giant Gonzalez and started billing him as 8 feet tall. The promotion also did him absolutely no favors with his atrocious ring gear, a full bodysuit airbrushed to look like his naked body covered in fake body hair. Gonzalez was almost immediately put into a feud with Undertaker after eliminating him from that year's Royal Rumble match. The pair squared off at WrestleMania 9. Gonzalez lost because he knocked Undertaker out with chloroform. The pair wrestled again at SummerSlam and the feud came to an end. Gonzalez's WWF career pretty much did too. He would go on to have a few more matches, but nothing else took off for him. He left the company in October 1993. Gonzalez wrestled in Japan until his official retirement from wrestling in February 1995. He lost to the Great Muta in his final match. Back in the mid-90s heyday of WCW Monday Nitro, Germany's own Alex Wright was a pretty successful mid-carder. He even had reigns with the Cruiserweight and TV championships. But in 1999, as WCW began to slide into creative chaos, Wright was taken off TV for months for a darker repackaging. His reworked character Berlyn had a dark mohawk, a goatee, sunglasses, and a trench coat. He also only spoke German and had to be accompanied by a translator, despite Wright having spoken fluent English before that. In a truly unfortunate coincidence, promo videos for Berlyn started airing just after the Columbine High School shootings in Colorado. The shooters not only wore trench coats, but also were known to be fans of the German metal band Rammstein. Fully aware of the similarities, WCW delayed Berlyn's debut. When he finally was scheduled for a match at that year's Fall Brawl, his opponent, Buff Bagwell, refused to lose to him and bowed out. So Berlyn instead faced hacksaw Jim Duggan, who no-sold all his offense despite taking the pin. WCW attempted to keep pushing him even after Berlyn's rocky start. He never got over with fans. Wright took a few months off WCW TV before coming back in 2000, once again under his real name. Years before Charlotte Flair started winning title after title, another of Ric Flair's kids, David, made a run at wrestling stardom. He debuted in WCW just before his 20th birthday in early 1999 and became the youngest WCW United States champion in history during his run. Despite winning a championship, feuding with his famous dad, and even getting involved in a romance angle with Stacy Keibler, his real-life girlfriend at the time, David's career never took off. He bounced around from feud to feud so fast it was difficult for fans to get behind him. David was also completely green. He had no prior wrestling training at all. His training likely happened on the fly while in the ring on Nitro and Thunder. After WCW folded in 2001, the WWF actually ended up picking up David's contract. Maybe it was a favor to Rick. David was sent to OVW until late 2002, and his developmental contract was dropped. Yet David came back once again to job to The Undertaker and appear in a series of dark matches in May 2003. He also made appearances in TNA and on the indie circuit, but hasn't wrestled since the late 2000s. Despite being of Italian descent and from Syracuse, New York, WWE hired Mark Copani to portray the Arab-American character Muhammad Hassan in the mid-2000s. At least at first, there was some nuance to it. Hassan didn't like how people of Middle Eastern descent have been vilified since the September 11 attacks, and repeatedly said so. But then, he turned out to be a terrorist. On a pre-taped episode of SmackDown that aired on July 7, 2005, The Undertaker easily defeated Hassan's manager, Daivari, in a match. Afterward, Hassan came out to pray on the ramp while 5 masked men beat down The Undertaker and choked him with piano wire. They then lifted Daivari above their heads and carried him away. This segment aired unedited just hours after the London Underground had been bombed in a terrorist attack. It drew attention in all the wrong ways, leading to demands for Hassan's character to be removed from WWE programming. Hassan was indeed written off television. Instead of getting a gimmick change, he was never seen on WWE programming again. Copani was released from his contract in September and announced his retirement shortly after.
I think I was a little depressed. I was definitely heartbroken, turned off.
Back when Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE, there was a very clear type of guy he liked to push. Think Ryback, think Braun Strowman, Batista, Brock Lesnar, big burly muscle men. Lars Sullivan fit that description, and he had a pretty decent run as a dominant big man in NXT in the mid-2010s. But then he went up to the main roster in late 2018, and things went sideways fast. The problems were all outside the ring. Sullivan was set to debut on Raw in January 2019, but he reportedly left the arena after having an anxiety attack. He finally made his way to TV that April, attacking Kurt Angle to start a heel run. By June, he was on the shelf with a knee injury. Just before that, fans discovered that Sullivan had made sexist, racist, and homophobic posts on a bodybuilding forum between 2007 and 2013. Some had come after he signed with WWE. The company fined him $100,000 and sent him to sensitivity training. Sullivan's final match came on October 23, 2020 on SmackDown, and he was quietly released in January 2021. Sullivan reportedly asked WWE for his release due to his ongoing issues with anxiety.